that's the problem with the situation in across America, is this multicultural mandate that you have to have to number one, exhibit your work if you're a visual artist in a gallery, perform your art on stage if you're a theatrical person, and then if you want to be a poet or a novelist and you need an extra bunch of money to complete a literary project or build a website or do whatever they're doing out there that they call making culture, you have to toe this party line, which is it's cultural Marxist. And that is kind of the big problem out there with the people in the profession. I remember in 1995 I was working with a Center on Contemporary Art in Seattle, and all of a sudden, for us to be able to get this grant for this non-profit arts organization that we ran here, we had to start making exhibitions for minorities, for women, homosexuals, and racial minorities. So in order to qualify for that annual $10,000 grant that we counted on every year as part, it was like 1/4 of our budget, we had to prove that we were going to bring in these other people, to make sure that they get a fair shake and representation in the arts in Seattle. So we started engineering shows that had to do with, we're going to have the gay show in September. We're going to have the women's show that will be in August, and then we'll have the Native American show in another month, and then we'll have a show for artists. You know what I mean? It all got compartmentalized into these various kinds of communities, and art is art. I mean, it really shouldn't make any difference if you're a male or female, if you're gay or if you're straight, if you're a Native American or if you're a Negro. It should be recognized as art by, I guess, art experts that don't have all this baggage attached to it. But if you've noticed, there's all this baggage attached to the arts in America now, and these grants that are being given and the attention people get in magazines, it has to do with their sexuality, their gender, and their race. And the old white guy like myself is sort of on the outside of the whole scene now, whereas it was just taken for granted when I was becoming an artist. We weren't thinking, well, I'm a white guy and I'm on top of the heap. It was just, I like to make art. The Frankfurt School are the people that were brought from Germany into the United States. They were precision placed in the academy and the universities by the foundations in America, the Ford, Carnegie, Mellon, all these, these people just have massive amounts of money. And their idea, and you can read the Frankfurt School, you can read Adorno, you can read the others, and the idea was to make art and culture so unharmonious and ugly that it would destroy the culture that preceded it, because these guys are Marxists, and Marxism cannot live alongside of any other ism. It's the second step to communism, or the precursor to communism. So you get into a culture, you start spreading your little Marxist ideas. These guys are theoreticians from Frankfurt, Germany, that were concocted this theory based on Antonio Gramsci because they couldn't take over Europe by arms, force of arms. So they had to come up with another idea, and the idea was, well, we'll go in on the long march through the institutions. Institutions are, of course, the universities, the art museums, and these guys had this plan, and the plan was to make all this hideous art, and atonal music from Adorno. I don't know where do these guys get their ideas, because it's resulted in a popular culture which is at the very top of this popular culture, which is supposed to be intellectual and enlightened and elitist, that you end up with Marina Abramovic painting museum walls with cow's blood and everybody clapping and thinking there's something profound to this, something extremely occult and witchy and wonderful and edgy and transgressive. It doesn't amount to anything, please. And the Dadaists, when they had their moment, had the honesty to admit that what they were doing meant absolutely nothing. We're Dadaists. Dada means hobby horse. What we do is nothing. We're just making a statement that has been interpreted, if you would like, as anti-war, because they came up, out of the slaughter of the First World War. But they said, all this stuff that we're throwing together really amounts to nothing but a protest against, cultures that lead their men into the battlefield as cannon fodder, and we don't want to go and we don't want to die. And that was Dada, and they had the honesty to say Dada means nothing. Well, after Dada, then you get these other movements, and you get the intellectuals that come along with promoting the movements. That happened with the help of these, what we call them the Kulturbergs. There were 3 Jewish art critics in the 50s that helped launch abstract expressionism, as well as the CIA, who put it in all the embassies around the world, Had these shows going around, they had intellectuals following it. You can read all about it. But Greenberg, Rosenberg, and Steinberg, that's the Kulturberg. And I have to tell you that what we got here is very Jewish. And the money that buys the art is Jewish. The artists that make the art, a lot of those celebrities, including Marina Abramovic, that's one of the reasons why she's where she is. She's half Jewish. She's a Serb. So now we've got an art press. We've got art festivals. That's the top of the pops, when you're an artist. If you can be invited to an international arts festival, you get out of school, then you get a gallery, maybe, if you're lucky. And then if you do good in the gallery, you get possibly invited to an art fair in a city. If you're noticed at an art fair in a city, you get invited to an art festival in Europe or in South America or in Cuba, these biennales. And that's all locked up, too, with this cultural Marxist mandate, which is egalitarianism, strange kinds of ugly, painting and actions and words and protests about the standard stuff about the oppression of the minorities and colonialism. And if you're from Africa and you can make a statement about how woebegone your society is, they'll give you a whole pavilion and you can go ahead and just whine away. And it starts at the city level, it goes to the state level, it proceeds to the federal level, and then to the international level. And at the very top of the pyramid at the international level, that's a very small clique of curators and critics who anoint an artist who then becomes kind of a international celebrity. And they get re-invited year after year to one of these places because their name lends some kind of cachet to this Biennale in, let's say, Brazil. So if you can get if you could get a Marina Abramovic to come to Brazil and do one of her spirit cooking gigs, well, then that makes you look like you're very cultural, enlightened, and it's kind of like advertising your country as being a member of this global society that is becoming homogenous wherever you go. If you guys get on airplanes and you take off in every direction for every human being in this room. When you land, you will find the same culture there. And it's really sad because the airports look alike, the museums are starting to look alike, the food is getting, corporatized, and there's a Starbucks in every, like in Paris, you go to your Starbucks, or in downtown Rome, Italy, pop into a Starbucks, that's all the same. You look at the art, modern art, I'm saying, that is the same. I could go anywhere and find the same, like, dozen artists with the great big paintings in that country, like all those pop guys, and then before the pop guys, we got the abstract expressionists for Americans, and then the European, the British, Damien Hirst and all that. I'm supposed to go in and look at this stupid Damien Hirst spot painting, and I'm supposed to be overawed because it's expensive. Somebody paid a lot of money for it, and that's all it's about. Is this Damien Hirst? This painting must have cost $1,500,000, and then you spend. You look at it, it's spots, right? It's a bunch of colored dots, and you go, wow. And you think because somebody paid that much money for it that it's good, but not necessarily. So I've discovered that there's that world of elitism and intellectual masturbation that goes along with what you call the fine arts.